Now, I'm going to talk to you about your practice interview preparation. And it says here, preparation for, participation in, and reflection on a practice interview. Now, I am going to send you an email tomorrow. It's in Microsoft Word, and it's about, I know, 2 or 3 pages of how to prepare for an interview and what's involved in preparing for an interview, and questions that you might be asked at an interview, and questions that you can ask at an interview. So what you do is you can either read that online or you can print it out and have it. Then we're going to do a practice interview. So I am going to interview you as if you're applying for a job as a preschool, working in a preschool. And I'll send you all a personal email or a text, and probably a text, and we'll arrange a time that suits us to do that interview. And it can be any time at all. I don't mean when we do it, as long as it kind of isn't late on a Friday night or something like that, because to be honest, I wouldn't be able for it. So it'll be about 10 minutes long, and we'll do the interview. I will record it. It will be recorded, but it will also be videoed, because the external examiner has to see the video of it. And when we have that done, I will give you feedback on it via email. I will email you back with feedback from the interview, how I felt the interview went, what you could have done better, or if you didn't, you need to improve anything. And then you will write up on it. So you will write up on the interview, and you can head it interview, and you can say that you got documentation from your tutor on how to prepare for an interview, that you read through it, that you did the interview on such a day. Don't bother saying the time. The interview was 10 minutes long. And then you talk, and that you got feedback from the tutor afterwards. Then you will talk about how you felt the interview went. You can say, look, it was done online. Because of the COVID-19, everything has been done online, that you hadn't done an interview online before and that you found it difficult, or maybe not, maybe it suited you, whatever. And then you can also kind of comment on the feedback from your tutor. So all of that really should only take about an A4 page. And that would be your practice interview done. There's 11 marks going for that, girls, for that interview, that practice interview, because I have to break it down into things like body language. Now, I don't know how we're going to mark your body language when I actually can't see you only online. So what you're going to be marked up on is, sorry, now I'm just trying to find the scoring. There is presentation, I think, clear and effective speech, appropriate body language, careful listening skills, clarification sought if needed. If I ask you something, you're not sure of what I'm asking you, you say, look, I'm not sure what you're asking me, because there's marks going for that. Knowledge about the organisation of vocational area. I am going to be asking you 2 questions. And then you'll get marks on that. And you will get marks then for reflection on interview, on the feedback received, and on learning from the experience. So all those are 2, 4, 6, 8, 11 marks. And they're really easy 11 marks to get. So that is our interview. I'm not putting it up on PowerPoint at all, because there's no point. So I'll send you an email tomorrow. I'll write about that. So what I want to do now, ladies, is I want to go on to what we're planning to do tonight. And it's page 6 of your descriptor. And I went away from it the last day. I didn't cover it because I didn't have it quite prepared with the globalization. Caroline and myself kind of went through it together. I prepared something for you on globalization, so I'm going to have to share screen now. Now up in front of you there is globalization. This is what it means. Now, when you write up in globalization, there are certain topics in globalization I have to cover. But I mean, you're only going to be writing a few lines about its see, it comes under here, explore and understand concepts and terms related to work, for example. Now, you can do that as an essay if you want to. would say if you were in school, the name of the essay would be explore and understand concepts and terms relating to childcare. And you'd have to cover the changing nature of work, which we did the last night, employment and unemployment, which you did, employability skills, they were all in last week's slides, globalization, which we're doing now, and career management. We covered that now, so we're just doing globalization now. So it means integrating the economy of a country with the economies of other countries under conditions of free flow of trade, capital, and movement of persons across borders. It includes one, increasing foreign trade, and two, export and import of techniques of production. Now that's uh, where countries trade between each other, but export and import of techniques of production would mean people from other countries coming in and working in our country here, or we going abroad and working in their country, and we're exchanging our skills, what we have learned with the companies in the other countries. One implication of the changes in knowledge, skills and learning resulting from globalization is that children who have facility only with traditional tools and practices may be left behind by those who can remain current with cultural and economic transitions. So what they're saying here, the thing about globalization is that there are some countries that would be behind, we'll say, from the point of view of technology, and that children who are there would not be keeping up with, we'll say, what like our children have, all the modern technologies, and how in our schools children have their own iPads and have their own methods of communication. In other countries, we'll say in Africa and places like that, they would still be writing really and truly with, we'll kind of say, blackboards and chalks and things like that. So they would not have the same advantages in spite of globalization. So it refers to the idea that in recent decades, the world has become more interconnected, the idea of a global village. Well, it has become connected because of all the technology, but some countries are still left behind. So in business then, it refers to the changes in the world where we are moving away from self-contained countries and towards a more integrated world. So what they're saying there, rather than we all being isolated as a country, we are now becoming like one big country. The world is coming together because through the aid of technology and exchange of ideas. Globalization of business is the change in a business from a company associated with a single country to one that operates in multiple countries. So what it is saying there is that a business now isn't just in one company, it's in one country. They can have multiple of their organizations all over the world, and you get that in the multinationals. So sorry, no, about the coffee. So the challenge for both the theory and practice in child and adolescent, where do I now? Have I jumped here now? Sorry, I have. Yeah, education has been impacted by globalization. It has totally changed the meaning of childhood. Children have become more advanced and technology sound with the help of this process. Besides this, children are moving far away from their culture and tradition as a result of this process, as schools and education systems now compete on a global league table rather than local or national competitions. Again, all this is because children are more exposed now to technology. They are far more advanced than they have been even 10 years ago. So, sorry, no, I'll just put this here now. Different cultures see different behaviors as problematic. For example, compared with the West, many non-Western cultures place fewer expectations on infants and younger children with regard to their behavior, emotional expression and self-control, but older children are expected to accept adult physical responsibilities earlier. A model of child development that recognizes that different cultures have different, equally healthy versions of child development has the potential to reduce the amount of, I can't pronounce this word, I never could, pathologizing of childhood in current Western medical practice. So what it's saying there is, what he's saying there is that it would really, but this requires the profession to question the universal validity of the concept of child psychiatry and the rating questionnaires. What he's saying there is that the globalization is children, we'd say the more affluent countries have manufactured ways of dealing with children, even from the point of view of medical practice, and then taking it to other countries to help them. So it's happening in Europe when the power relation between the world's rich and poor nations is unequal. So we see this in the area of health, with grossly disappropriate funds available to rich countries. We've seen that where some countries are so poor that I mean, even look at what's happening in we'll say the camps where people are having to leave their own areas and survive in area in thousands, and they have, with the COVID and everything around at the moment, they have nothing at all, no facilities to help them. So the World Health Organization continues to advocate the Western model of distress and mental illness as suitable for all countries and cultures and to childhood. So the World Health Organization is inclined to advocate our Western models as being the best way to work with children and cultures that have towards illness, and cultures that have where their people suffer from psychiatric problems, mental illness, and that's not always necessarily true. So the challenge for both the theory and practice in child and adolescent mental health is daunting. So as a people, we should critically examine the narrow base on which current theory and practice has developed. This will help not only other cultures' children, but also children in the West. Increased knowledge will also make it easier to engage with multi-ethnic communities that have different faith traditions and cultural beliefs from the host society. What that statement there is saying is we should not think that just because something is designed in the West, that any other culture, that what they do is not right or proper or would not benefit us. And that's not true at all, because if you have, we'll say, like the Aboriginal people, they live on we'll say in an area where they still kind of treat illnesses and sores and cuts with plants. And I mean, there are people who deal would say treating animals and people just with herbs and plants rather than more conventional medicine. And I suppose what we're saying is that the two cultures, the West and other cultures, should come together and bring their knowledge together for the betterment of mankind. So the OECD, down at the bottom, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, it is an international organization that works to build better policies for better lives. So the goal of that organization is to shape policies that foster prosperity, equality, opportunity, and well-being for all. Now that is what their goal is, but obviously it's not working. It is a unique form where the government of 30 democracies work together to address the economic, social, and environmental challenges of globalization. Now, I don't know who what country are in it, but there are 30 democracies. But I'll bet you they are the more affluent societies. So it is also at the forefront of efforts to understand and to help governments respond to new developments and concerns such as corporate governance, the information economy, and the challenges of an aging population. What they're saying today is they gather all their knowledge together, these 30 democracies and their representatives, and they devise plans to give for other governments, for all governments to look at, to help, we'll say, with corporate governance, governing corporations, information economy, and challenges of the aging population. The organization provides a setting where governments can compare policy experiences, seek answers to common problems, identify good practice, and work to coordinate domestic and international policies. So, I'm driving mad coffee all night. No, I'm sorry. Asthma is driving me insane. As we have seen, globalization is an idea that is widely referred to in the modern world. This idea takes into account the increasing effect that the rest of the world has on each country. One key example is the increase of migration and movement of people and labour across the world. Now, if you, in the next page, we're talking about immigration and migration. So that's globalization helps to increase that. It teaches people how to move between different countries, not teaches them, but provide facilities so that they can bring labour from one country to another. Globalization has both a political and an economic dimension. So in terms of economies, we see the rise of multinational companies and the role of the World Bank cutting across the economy of countries. All that is, we see the multinationals rising up, becoming more powerful. And I mean, we see them now trying, and the pharmaceuticals try to develop vaccinations for the COVID. So they're competing against each other, and they're getting helped in as well from the World Bank. So despite the effects of globalization, it is important to remember the individual nature of each country. So each country is very important, and as a result of each country being important, the people in each country are important to their own country, and their own culture is very important as well. Every country has its own particular historical and cultural response to the issues that arise. When we look at social systems in other countries, there are similarity and differences in responses to social issues when compared to Ireland. So if you were to sit down, and only we're not, and if we're studying something like sociology or something, and you were to look at social issues in other countries, you could see that they were very different to Ireland, and Ireland would deal with them differently. And other countries will say France would deal different to maybe Turkey or somewhere like that. So when we look at the different models of the early childhood education and care provision in other countries, we can see different sets of underpinning ideas are behind policy and development. So when we look at with our policies for early childhood education and care, we see the reasons behind these policies, and they are totally different to other countries. So it is how we view the family, the role of women in the workforce, ideas of how much the state can be involved in the provision of services to families. And that now kind of is very relevant to Ireland. It's relevant to all countries, but more so to Ireland. So for example, now in Sweden, this is now all relating to childcare. In Sweden is an example of a country that has developed a module of early childhood education and care that is characterized by high state investment in that service. So what we should be doing really is, a country in Ireland, we should be aspiring to, we'll say, somewhere like Sweden. A child's right, this is what they have in their policies, a children's right perspective, the children's right to resources. So the government put money in to make resources available. A high proportion of GDP is devoted to childcare, over 1%. Now, you might think that's not much, but wait till you see what some of the other ones do. Care and education are combined to enhance children's potential. Integrated service for children up to 6 years of age and work-life balance of families are important. Now, that's Sweden, and that's one of the better and probably the best at the moment economies in the world, really, to do with childcare. And it is something that we'll say within Europe that other countries should be aspiring to. So that's Sweden. These policies are supported by other family policies and general maternity and paternity leave. So their early childhood services are available to all children, and costs are subsidised by the state. 3 hours daily of free preschool for 1 to 5 year olds. Now we have that here as well, but I think it's they have it longer than our 38 weeks. The level of training and education for the staff in the sector is high, and that's because the state pays. So the staff are educated. I mean, if we want to do any course here or educate ourselves apart from having a primary degree, we have to pay for it ourselves. But in Sweden, the government pay. Now, France. They are a bit more conservative, model of early childhood education and care. They have a lower proportion of GDP devoted to childcare, between 0.4 and 1%. Still not too bad, but it's kind of more or less around the 0.4. They focus on literacy and numeracy foundations. They're big into getting the children, they're not big into all this play. It's all about literacy and numeracy. It's a kind of a school, getting them ready for school. It is state funded in the years just prior to school age. That is the only time the state funded will say, I think they go to school officially at 6, so it would be funded from 4 to 6. If you have a child up to that particular age, we'll say 4, in a creche or something, there is no funding at all available for it. Here in Ireland there is, but it's means tested. So the focus in France is on school readiness. They're sending them to preschools or early childhood education and care to get them ready for school. And then it's école maternelle is the ages 3 to 6. So that's kind of when they go to school, and it's getting them ready for school. So state-funded creches for younger children. At the moment, statistics show that only 13% of 2-year-olds attend nursery school. That's in France. Even though there is a certain amount of state support, there are issues with affordability, particularly for working parents and low income. Now, Australia. Australia has a low public investment in childcare. A low proportion of GDP is devoted to childcare, less than 0.5%. Now, the focus of early year services is on the provision for working mothers. They will any subsidies are for to get the people, mothers in the workforce. Policy relating to ECEC services is weak and poorly integrated. The focus is on family responsibility for children. The idea, and the reason I know that is I have a son married with 2 children in Australia, and the Australian government idea is, well, you have your children, you've decided to have them, so now you're responsible for them, you pay for them. Don't expect other people to pay for them. So the majority of ECEC services are privately funded. Now, and I know from my 2 granddaughters, when they were going to preschools before they started school, there was no subsidy whatsoever. They had to be paid for. So and the same if you're putting a child into a creche or something there, you paid. You got no subsidy at all. You paid for the creche and that was it. They don't get children's allowance. They get no children's allowance. But they get credit off of your tax, all right, but there's no such thing as children's allowance, but you get credit off your tax. The system is characterised by a market research approach, with individuals and family bearing the responsibility for childcare costs. So in Ireland, it's 0.1%, 0.1. Now, Australia, and they think that's bad. If you look there, it's 0.5. In Ireland, we invest 0.1 of GDP in childcare only. One of the factors that influenced Ireland's drive to establish childcare facilities was the development of these services in the rest of Europe. Now, if you remember when we were doing our SNAs, we were talking about the Salamanca Agreement, and that's what the Barcelona Agreement I called. Ireland signed up to the Barcelona Agreement in 2002 and made a commitment to achieve targets for the provision of early childhood education care services for 3 to 6 year olds. Now, they signed up to that in 2002, and that was called the Barcelona Agreement. The Salamanca Agreement then was an add-on to the Barcelona Agreement to integrate children with additional needs into a preschool setting or into a school setting, and to make funds available. So the two of them worked hand in hand. In comparison to many of its European counterparts, Ireland has a very poorly developed ECEC sector. And in the 1990s, it first came into being in the 1990s. And this, along with other factors, formed part of the impetus for the development in this area. So what it really was about was they were forced, the Irish government were forced by signing on to the Barcelona Agreement and the Salamanca Agreement in 2004 to up their money and their funds towards childcare. If they didn't, I don't think if they hadn't signed up to that, it wouldn't be happening. Another important factor that helped to shape Ireland's modern social and cultural climate was immigration. So as Ireland's economy grew rapidly in the Celtic Tiger years, there was an influx of returning Irish immigrants. So more people started to come back. Irish immigrants that were abroad came back during the Celtic Tiger. So that means there was an increase in the child population of the country. That meant they came back from Ireland and they wanted to go working. And to do that, there had to be childcare facilities for them. So the expansion of the EU in the 1990s and 2000s, there was an increased opportunity for the movement of labour across the continent. This led to an increase of Eastern Europeans settling and working in Ireland, again increasing the population of Ireland. When people started joining the EU and there was free movement within the countries, the population increased. So again, there was another reason to increase childcare. Now, Canada. Now, compared to its OECD peers, Canada ranks lowest in public spending on early childhood education and care spending, and merely a 0.3% of GDP, which is well below the international benchmark amount of 1% of GDP. Now, when I looked at that again, I don't think that I looked at it again, the 0.3 isn't correct. Because I think I think in actual fact it's something like 0.03%. It has the poorest record of spending in early childhood care in the countries that have signed up to OECD. So that's it, ladies. That has to do with globalization. It is the effects of all countries coming together and working together. And from the point of view of childcare, it is, we had looked at Sweden, we looked at France, we looked at Australia, we looked at Ireland, and we looked at Canada. And Sweden is the one that we should be aspiring towards, our government should be aspiring towards. Right? Are you all right with that, ladies? Okay.
Can you hear me there, John?
Sorry? Can you hear us? Yeah.
Can you hear me, John?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, no, mine is still stuck on France. I can hear you fine, but my whole thing is after freezing, and it says Teams isn't responding, and it's letting me close out of it. If I close out of it, will I be able to get back in?
Yeah, you probably could. Is anyone else having the same problem? Hello, ladies?
No, I'm fine.
You're all in?
No, we're all fine. Yeah.
Who was I speaking to there?
Yeah.
Was that,
I'd say it's just
is that Elaine?
Mary.
Oh, Mary, sorry.
No, it's Mary.
Yeah, Mary, sorry. And I'll see, can I get you back in again?
Yeah, it's just, I actually I'm only hearing every second word anyway, so I'll because my wife is desperate tonight. Yeah, I'll just try it anyway, Sharon.
You do, yeah, and I'll see, can I get you back in? All right.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Okay.
Okay. Now, can you hear me, ladies?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're still there. Okay. And I'm waiting. I would see, can I get Mary back in? Are you in, Mary?
Yeah, I am. Thanks.
Can you hear me now again? You can?
Yeah, that seems
okay. Yeah, okay, all right. Thanks. Okay. All right, we go to the next one now, so, which is immigration and immigration. Same thing, but they mean two different things. Now we're going to talk about child migrants first, and we're going to go quickly through this because you only just have to write thing, but it's something I have to cover. It's on my brief. So child migrants are one of the most vulnerable groups of children in Ireland, whether in care, housed in direct provision centres while their parents await a decision on their rights to stay in Ireland, or settled with their families. Children from a migrant background face a broad range of challenges. Over the last number of years, we have worked alongside young people to identify the key problems that would be the Irish people to face and engage with law and policy makers to improve this situation. Right. So the failure to consider the individual rights and needs of children in Ireland's immigration system is having a devastating impact on the lives of too many migrant children in Ireland. Children we have met and supported are facing unacceptable and unnecessary challenges. Left in limbo because of their immigration status is unclear, and facing a series of barriers if they age out before this is sorted. These include having trouble accessing education, having their health and housing rights respected. They are often entirely left out of decisions being made about their lives. Our Constitution states the best interest of a child should be the primary consideration when making laws or policy that affect young people's lives. But this has not always been the case to date. While efforts are made to meet migrant children's needs in law and policy, there is a lack of consistency and accountability. While vulnerable children, including refugees, children in care, unaccompanied minors, and victims of human trafficking are particularly affected by this, all migrant children should face the consequences in seeking access to education, having a recognised residency status, or being protected from racism or exploitation. Child protection. Ensuring being born in another country never puts a child to or increased danger of exploitation or harm. Just because you were born in somewhere else other than Ireland doesn't mean that you should be exploited or put in any danger. The best interest of the child should always be the primary consideration in any decision regarding a child's care. Any staff and foster carers working with or supporting children as care setting must be trained on immigration matters, including the law, cultural competency, and indicators of exploitation and trafficking. So, reuniting families. Now, approximately 175 unaccompanied children arrive in Ireland every year. The majority have left their families in countries impacted by conflict, including Afghanistan, Eritrea, Iraq, Syria, and Ethiopia. Now, that number is probably down. Reunifying with family is critically important to children's well-being, mental health, and development. There is no state-provided legal aid available for applications for family reunification in Ireland. Without legal help, it is difficult for children to apply for family reunification and to meet all requirements or to challenge refusals of their applications. Children can also miss the limited time window to reunite with their families in safety. So, immigration procedures. There should be a specific agency or contact point to be established which will take responsibility for providing information and legal advice on immigration to children and those supporting them, with specific attention to the challenges facing children in care. I have that should be, I have the face in the wrong place there, sorry. Asylum seeking children. Take action to adequately respond to the unacceptably high numbers of children in extreme danger as a result of the refugee crisis through residency and relocation programs. And parallel to these actions, the state should child-proof the asylum process with particular attention paid to the age assessment procedures and support of victims of trafficking. And awareness raising. The actions above, what we're saying is give them their legal status sooner. The actions above should be accompanied by efforts to ensure increased awareness for parents, guardians, and in education centres of the need to register children with immigration services or that can access their entitlements, such as further education, without delay. Well, what they're saying there is the whole process just taking miles too long. So if you go down now to number 3 first. Immigration refers to people entering a country, and the immigration with an E refers to people leaving a country. So there is the action of coming to live permanently in a foreign country. The place and immigration also is a place at an airport or country's border where government officials check the documents of people entering that country. And we all have that at airports we go through. People immigrate for many reasons, some of which include economic or political reasons, family reunification, natural disasters, or desire to change one's surroundings. Immigration can represent an expansion of the supply of labour in the host country. And I mean, nowadays, young people do an awful lot of traveling, you know, and they go and they work in different countries for 6 months or a year, and they do it because they just want to see what work in other countries like. They want to, it's an adventure. So which is good, because up to very recently people kind of left for a whole load of other reasons, including our Irish people who left, we'll say, during the time of the famine, because they just didn't have any, they hadn't enough to eat here. And then as well, we'll say, during the recession of 2008, when our economy fell apart, a lot of our people immigrated, and they were immigrated in previous recessions as well. Immigrants fulfilled an economic role in taking on, they take low pay, they're low skilled work, despite many immigrants having good qualifications and imminent careers in their home countries. And that happens an awful lot of people who've had to leave because of turmoil in their own countries. A lot of them have come to Ireland and they've had their major degrees, they've had masters, they've had PhDs, they've had loads of qualifications. We had a parent here and he was a chef and owned his own business. Had his own restaurant in Syria, and he had to leave all that. He showed us photographs of it before the place was flattened by what the direction that was going on there, and he left with his wife and not his child at the time. They didn't have children at the time, and came to Ireland. And he's a qualified chef, but he's now got a status, so thank God he's working. He's able to work now. So understanding immigrant and refugee children and their families. Training about the key issues facing immigrant and refugee children and their families. We need to know about that. We need to know about training about internal differences of a particular client population. Train as to how to work with immigrant and refugee children and their families based on their post-migratory stage. You know, we would have an awful lot of, well, we don't have an awful lot of refugees, but refugees that have now come into our country. And we really, for places like here, we really don't know how they got here. Because we saw a lot of visions of they be picked up in boats in the Mediterranean. So we really don't know how they got here, and we don't know what they've been through or what they have been through in their home country and the turmoil that they left behind them. So it is important that the children and their families feel emotionally supported, that they feel that the programme is adaptable to their lives, you know, that we include them into their life, into our lives. And when we're saying our lives, we'll say in childcare settings and things, and I suppose in our towns as well. Children and their families develop knowledge and skills to thrive in their new. We need to help them that way so they can thrive if they're coming from a totally different country to what ours, with different laws, and they have a different religion and different beliefs, and it's important that we put something in place to help them to interact and feel comfortable in our society. And we should try and increase opportunities for children and their families learning, and staff should develop flexibility and resilience to deal with issues as they arise. And we do. I think we do particularly well. And I mean, we've all gone, most of us have gone and done that diversity course led on by, well, we do through the county childcare, and it covers how to deal with situations like this. So it is important already accommodate the cultural needs of the particular child. For instance, food preferences, issues of timeliness, you know, some children coming from other cultures, they eat totally different foods to ours. Some of them they don't eat pork. You know, we had one thing, and part of their religion was they did not eat pork. We had another family as well, and their religion was very strong, and they didn't have anything to do with the cow. None whatsoever, no beef, nothing at all to do with the cow. So that sort of thing you have to try and respect. Providing support for children and their families with issues as they arrive in their life, for example, moving, loss of work, economic and familial, and modifying program objectives based on the client group, so that we modify whatever programs we set up in school to incorporate them into it as well. So there was research done by Barrett and O'Connell in 2001. I don't know who Barrett and O'Connell are, but I found it, on the earnings of returning migrant relatives to non-migrant migrants provide an important piece of evidence on how immigration can be beneficial for individuals themselves and for the country as a whole. And that is true. We'll say we go into another country, we take our educational qualifications and we enhance wherever we're working. The same applies to people coming into other countries from here. They bring their knowledge with them, they bring their traditions with them. We don't have to adapt their traditions, but we can respect them and we can learn from them. Using the hypothesis that migration is part of the process of forming human capital, they argue that individuals may decide to work abroad to acquire increased skills, which may be in short supply domestically. Coming back some years later with higher level skills may mean that returning migrants can command higher earnings than non-migrants. And that's what I was saying a while ago. You know, we go abroad, get our qualifications, we go abroad and we work abroad, and whatever the qualification is, we look at new ideas and new methods they have of working abroad, and we bring those back when we come back in here, and vice versa. We would have people that would come and they would work here. We have doctors that come here and work in Ireland for a while, go back and take back the ideas. Greater cultural diversity could improve Ireland's competitiveness, as the inflow of immigrants from all over the world is likely to lead to trade with new countries and to an intensification of trade with other countries with which Ireland has already trading relationships. So what it's saying is, if we've trading relationships with other countries and people from that other countries come here to Ireland, that can only improve our trading relationship, because we learn the ways of we'll say, other countries, and vice versa. They learn our way and take it back. So all children in Ireland, that's everybody, are entitled to free primary and post-primary education and are required to stay in school until they are at least 15 years old. I think that's gone up to, I'm not sure now, I stand corrected, that could be 16. Most research into the educational profile and needs of non-national in Ireland tend to be concentrated on asylum seekers, and the focus lies on language skills. So when, you know, the department, when they're talking about, we'll say, integrating people from other nationalities in, they always seem to pick on asylum seekers, and then the facilities they put up for them is they send them to English classes, and we've seen that where the parents that come from another country here and their English is very poor, they're always sent off to English classes. And so in 1999, the Refugee Language Support Unit was established to ensure that all refugees were offered appropriate English language training. It has since become Integrate Ireland Language and Training, and its remit has been broadened to include adult asylum seekers who now have free access to adult literacy and English language classes. So that's it. The top 10 problems faced by immigrants: language barriers, employment opportunities, housing, access to local services, transportation issues, cultural differences, raising children, and prejudice. Now, the employment opportunities is, well, they can't work until they have been given a visa to work. So, and that can take a while. Of course, they have a problem with housing because there's a shortage of housing. Access to local services, they don't know, a lot of them, what they're entitled to. Transportation issues, cultural differences, we understand that. Raising children can be very, very difficult in our society, particularly if they came from a more conservative society themselves, and of course prejudice. So the advantages of having other cultures in: it makes a richer and more diverse culture. It helps to reduce any labour shortages, and migrants are more prepared to take on low-paid, low-skilled jobs. The disadvantages: increasing cost of services such as healthcare and education, overcrowding, and disagreement between different religions and cultures. And you know, the disadvantages there, I don't think there's something that are absolutely huge. I know there is a huge cost in providing services and maybe trying to integrate them into the education system, because particularly if they go into a primary school sector and their English non-existent, means that they have to have more resource hours and things, but that's a very small price to pay. Overcrowding can be an issue, and disagreement between different religions and cultures. So specific needs and vulnerabilities of adolescent and youth migrants. Risks faced by migrants are exacerbated in the case of adolescents and youth. Young migrants are more vulnerable when, in combination with their age and stage of life, they experience isolation, exclusion, discrimination, and insecurity. Moreover, in the migration process, young people can lose their social networks and may also be without parents or family members to provide guidance and care. So that would be, we'll say, if they come into the country and at a relatively young age and they have no family support behind them. Their language skills and knowledge of how business is done in Ireland and their own countries give them a comparative or these are people who are coming in advantage when they can use to exploit opportunities for trade. Greater access to capital in Ireland, which they may not have in their own countries, may also stimulate the development of new trading relationships. So, I mean, they might have more access to be able to get access to capital, to money here to set up businesses, and not necessarily from the government. You know, there's a lot of organizations that fund start-up businesses, and for someone that might want to set up, like I was talking about that gentleman we had that was a chef, I mean, he would dearly love to set up a restaurant himself like he had at home, but we were telling him there are funds available for people like him to set up small businesses, and that's that. Right. Now, the next one. Sorry, I'm looking at my list now. Economic shifts. Can you see this now, ladies? Everybody all right? Yeah, okay, that's fine. That's great. Yeah, I know you all have your microphones off. Thank you for we're going to talk about economic shifts now as well. Now we're on top of page 7 here, I think. Yeah, we are. We're after doing immigration and migration, and I think economic shifts is it relates to economy, economics, or finance of a country. We talk about the booms and the dips of the bus. Now we all know about booms because and about that was the Celtic Tiger, and the dips did what happened when the economy collapsed. Booms, dips in economic growth can occur due to a number of reasons. I'll go down here. It's an increase in aggregate demand caused by an increase in consumption. This may be caused by a rise in income levels, a decrease in interest rates, house price inflation, labour shortages, and an increase in demand for imports. Well, we saw all that about during the time of our Celtic Tiger, which was considered a boom. The price of housing went mad. You couldn't buy a house. There was an increase in consumption. People were off buying cars, and we were all heading off on holidays abroad, and God, we were having a great time. And then, of course, it all ended with a bang. Examples of economic factors affecting business include interest rates, exchange rates, recession, inflation, taxes, demand and supply. Now, the reason we're doing this is, you might say, what in God's name has this got to do with childcare? It has, because we're going to be talking later on about setting up your own business. And all this has an effect on setting up your own business. So interest rates, exchange rates, recession, we understand inflation, taxes, and demand and supply. Well, there's no point setting up a business if there isn't a demand for it. So childcare in Ireland, the early years high, which was the National Childcare Scheme. The National Childcare Scheme is a new scheme that provides financial support to help parents to meet the cost of childcare. It provides 2 types of childcare subsidy for children over 6 months of age. A universal subsidy for children under 3. Children over 2 who have not yet qualified for the ECCE are also eligible, and it is not means tested. And an income assessed subsidy for children up to 15, and it is means tested. All subsidies in childcare other than the ECCE is means tested. You cannot get the universal subsidy and an income assisted subsidy at the same time. However, you can choose which subsidy is of greatest benefit to you. So you can get the 2 of them. You can't, it is like anything, you can only get, if you're getting, you can't get 2 social welfare payments, you can only get 1, but you can take the one that benefits you most. What is the ECCE scheme? We all know what this is. It provides early childhood care and education for children of preschool age. The scheme is offered in earlier settings like preschool, Montessori school, playgroups, etc. for 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, 38 weeks of the year. All children are entitled to 2 full academic years on the ECCE scheme. Some children actually, depending on their date of birth can get more than 2 years. Children are eligible to start the ECCE scheme in the September if they are 2 years and 8 months by the 31st of August. Now, I've had a case where children have only missed it out by a day. Their birthday would have been, we'll say maybe the 1st or 2nd of September, when they'd have been 2 years and 8 months, or whatever. 2 years and 8 months by thing, and they have missed it. And that's it. The cut-off point is the cut-off point, and there is no leeway. Staff in the childcare sector are becoming more qualified, but yet there are problems in finding staff to fill vacancies as staff are going off into other sectors or teaching and immigrating to work in the same sectors abroad. This now again is coming in, you can cover it, comes into immigration, but it also comes into economic shifts, because if the money isn't good enough, well, people aren't going to stay in the business. Now, Sean Sherlock, he's North Cork TD. He sought support for early childhood workers and advocates across North Cork this week in the Dáil, that actually was last week, as the Labour Party moved their motion to guarantee a fair start for every child. The issue of qualifications is important. He outlined that staff in the sector are becoming more qualified, with 94% having level 5 qualifications or higher. So the COVID-19 pandemic has exposed the deep-rooted long-term and structural flaws in Ireland's childcare sector. And according to the research dealing with the pandemic, the case of early years and school-age childcare provided in Ireland, the COVID-19 pandemic has added an extra layer of complexity to pre-existing problems in the sector. It has, because it's very hard to get staff, all sectors, like we were discussing, employability, all sectors nearly at the moment, childcare, you cannot get a childcare worker kind of for love nor money, and certainly there are no level 6s around. The report published by Early Childhood Ireland said that problems existing in staffing levels, recruitment, children's well-being, as well as stress and anxiety among staff. Early Childhood Ireland, that's our organisation, supports 3,800 childcare members nationwide. So the report is based on interviews with a sample of Early Childhood Ireland members during the summer. We all filled it out, and then they rang a random few of us back. It aimed at examining the impact of the closure of childcare settings, the effectiveness of COVID-19 supports provided for the sector, and providers' plans for the reopening. Among its key findings included the need for the government wage subsidy scheme to be extended, as well as future government support to take sufficient account of the diversity of the childcare sector. Now, we do come under the employers' wage subsidy scheme, which is of great help. Staff remains a serious issue. Now we're still talking about the economic shift here now. Staffing remains a serious issue, and sourcing replacement and cover staff is likely to pose a huge challenge in the context of COVID. That's what they got from the report. Francis Byrne, Director of Policy with Early Childhood Ireland, said that prior to COVID-19, Ireland's childcare sector was already struggling because of deep-rooted long-term and structural flaws. Chronic underinvestment has resulted in a system where staff are poorly paid, and consequently staff retention levels are low. COVID-19 not only revealed the deep-seated flaws within childcare, but also the extent to which the entire nation is dependent on a properly functioning childcare sector. But you saw that now we are classified as essential workers, and we're being left over because they found out when they closed us in the last lockdown, level 5. People that were working from home, and sometimes both parents working from home, found it virtually impossible to be able to work successfully from home whilst having children, particularly very young children, under their feet. And that's that. Now, girls, if you have at any stage any questions or anything, just put on your microphone. Sorry, I'm just checking now what's coming up next. Technology, yeah. So ICT, the term ICT, information communication, is used to describe a range of technological media. It is defined not just as computers, but programmable toys, telephones, talking books, cameras, printers, scanners, and much more. Sorry, no, I think I've gone away from it. Yeah. Now, this is technology in childcare and how we can benefit not just the staff, but the children as well. The use of ICT in the childcare environment provides great opportunities for creative development in children. Creativity is essential for successful learning, and it can lead to children having the most fun and enjoyment. Creativity now how technology can help creativity. Creativity can be spontaneous. It encourages children to explore and discover for themselves and helps them. It makes links across all areas of learning and development. The creative area of learning includes arts and crafts, music, dance, imaginative play and role play. It is about giving children opportunity to develop their own ideas and express themselves in many forms. ICT resources can enable this development. What I'm saying there really is not that the children, well, maybe the older children can if you were doing after school care or something, but we'd say preschoolers is the staff go and we use our computers and things to get ideas how to encourage creativity in children, and we kind of print out pictures that we put up on the wall and things for them to see, and that's it would be from a staff point of view. An older child in would say after school care would be able to use a computer under supervision themselves, probably better than we do, or I do anyway. Now, the video recording is an invaluable tool. It can record all kinds of imaginative plays, such as dressing up and puppetry. Playing back what was previously recorded gives children an audience and appreciation for their creativity. Pictures on it, if you wanted to use an overhead projector, can make a backdrop scene for drama, a show, or a puppet theatre. Now, I mean, video can also be used for, we'd say, observing children, for doing observation, maybe watching a child's socialization or a child's emotional development. In actual fact, video recording can be used in any form that you want to for observing a child or a group of children. But once you have it used and you're finished with what you have and you've written up what you want, it must be erased. That is part of GDPR and data protection. You cannot, once it's done and dusted, you are only supposed to record and keep a recording for the use it's intended for and then got rid of. Music and movement software programs are also very popular with all ages. Using such software, children can listen, imitate and experiment with sounds and movement. ICT can also help children to explore sounds and rhythm through the use of musical keyboards, dance mats and software. Tape recorders and karaoke devices encourage children in singing simple songs from memory and can also facilitate role play sessions. Music software and music used from the internet can encourage children to enjoy music from different cultures. And that's all, you can all understand that. And this music and movement and things like that is very good for children. I mean, even things like what we find here, they love playing like musical chairs, something as simple as that, the stopping and starting of music or moving to the rhythm of music, and all that it's very enjoyable. It's great fun and it's helping them with their their listening skills and their gross motor skills. So communication, technology can support communication during pretend play activities. These activities encourage children to express and communicate their ideas, thoughts and feelings. By reflecting the children's real worlds, we allow them opportunities to share, solve problems and talk about daily events. A visit to a local supermarket, health clinic, bakery or coffee shop can encourage children to look at how technology is used to price items, scan barcodes, swipe bank cards and print receipts. Back in their learning environment, these everyday situations can be recreated with the children. That's what we're saying about role play. You know, their role play is they copy what they see in role play. If they're shopping and things like that, like scanning the food or using, I suppose, even the money isn't used anymore, like it's bank cards and things like that. And they bring the real life, what was happening out in society back into role play here in the settings. Digital cameras and video recorders allow practitioners to make many of their own resources to support children's developing communication, language and literacy. These are probably some of the best resources and they can be completely personalized to the children. They can include familiar people environments and events, and that can help bridge the experience of home and the setting for a young child. Children can be right at the centre of the action, which does appeal to the egocentric nature of childhood. And at our particular age, we'll say if you're talking about preschoolers here, you know, they are kind of 3, 4, 5-year-olds. Everything centres around them, so they love when you take photographs of them and they want to see themselves in the camera and things like that. ICT appropriately used can extend children's experience of communication, language and literacy, as well as reflecting real-world experience and providing motivation and encouragement to learn. So when we go to the business point of view now, running your own business, technology helps in building the business fully, in keeping the business fully organized. Software helps in building, delegating, reviewing and accessing a task. Employers and managers can easily supervise workplace activities that help in keeping everything on track. Technology in the workplace has helped workers become more efficient than ever before. What used to take hours now can take minutes. So the benefits to business obviously is the World Wide Web, which we couldn't survive without now. WhatsApp, I found that extremely. I have the parents on a WhatsApp group, and every weekend I do a review of what we did for the week on the group and what we plan to do the following week, and then I put up pictures, and all the parents, every single parent is on it. Both parents really are on it. Viber and various websites. But when we are talking about using any of these, we must remember, and I've put it down there, data protection and the GDPR. And that is so important. Right. Now, I am going to go about future skills needed. Now, girls, you're going to be using, I know I'm going to, there's only 5 slides. I am using this now, and we'll talk about future skills needed. You will be using this, girls, out of the when you have your work experience done, and you're going to be writing up on your experience, how you found work experience. Well, I'll cover that with you next week. And one of the things you'll be talking about as well, now that you have your work experience done, what skills do you need to have to be a room leader, whatever you want to do. Now you have all the skills already, girls, but for this you're supposed to pretend you haven't. So it's future skills needed. Now this is there's only 5 slides, and it's all common sense, and I shouldn't even have to do it with you, but I will. High level of patience with immense love and compassion for children. Well, if you haven't patience, you've no business whatsoever in this job. Skilled childcare worker with a knowledge of developing fun and interesting activities. Good communication, interpersonal skills, ability to get along with children and entertain them, and excellent child supervision skills. Now you all have those in abundance. So your future skills needed here now: communication, the childcare worker, sorry. Now this is something that you will have to develop, because as a student on work experience doing 120 hours, students are not allowed to communicate with the parents. So childcare workers must be able to talk with parents and colleagues about the progress of the children and their care. They need both good speaking skills to provide this information effectively and good listening skills to understand parents' instructions. So that would be something now that you could say what you need to develop for the future. Now, I'm sure some of you already are talking to parents and discussing them, but look, for the purpose of this, you can say, look, whilst you're doing it, you need to improve on it or something. Decision-making skills. Good judgment is necessary for childcare workers so they can respond to emergencies or difficult situations. Instructional skills. Childcare workers need to be able to explain things in terms young children can understand. Now that would be you talking to children, and you must come down to children's level and speak at their level. But it also would be if you were a room leader and you had a childcare assistant working with you who would be a level 5. The responsibility for that room lies with you as a room leader, and the room leader is answerable to the manager. So the manager is responsible for the room leader and the childcare assistant. So you need to be able to give instructions clearly. Interpersonal skills. Childcare workers need to work well with people to develop good relationship with parents, children and colleagues. And that's very important when you work in our field, particularly when you're talking to parents about their children. Patience. Working with children can be frustrating, so childcare workers need to be able to respond to overwhelming and difficult situations calmly. And physical stamina. Working with children can be physically taxing, so childcare workers need to have a lot of energy. And that is true. I always say when I have students coming in here and they're gone into college and they're studying childcare and they're usually in first year, or we get them in from Mary I or something like that. I keep saying, well, that's the end of your Sunday nights out. You go to more Sunday nights, because if you're out on Sunday nights until awfully late, you cannot get up on Monday morning and come in and trying to cope with the noise of whatever amount of children you have. So that would be the physical stamina as well, and kind of puts paid to your Sunday night entertainment. Childcare practitioners provide safe, temporary supervision and care of young children. They engage children in age-appropriate play activities, plan simple lessons, organise outings, teach basic social skills such as discipline and personal hygiene. They encourage learning and development through play and teaching. So they would be all your future skills that you need. So they need to create a secure environment using imagination to help children to learn. Working with parents to support their children, enabling children to build their literacy, language and numeracy skills. And you have to be good with finances. Now that would probably, it probably would apply more to a room leader, where the manager comes in and kind of says, look, this month now you've look out, there's the whole pile in the kitty and you've only 20 euros to spend. So you kind of go, Christ, what, I can't get much for 20 euro. Well, you have to be resourceful. That's why you will say childcare providers never throw things like cornflake boxes or backs of envelopes, or if there is typing on one side of a sheet, you wouldn't dream of throwing it away because the children can draw on the other side of it. So, I mean, we're a very resourceful workforce, really, because money is not plentiful, so we don't throw anything away. So being good with finances and being resourceful would be part of it. Right, now with motoring, does anyone now want a coffee break? It is 8:25. No? Or y'all, anyone, if you want to break, now's the time to say it. We've a good bit yet to go.
I have to come out again.
Yeah, do you need a break, John?
No, I'm all right. I'm just coffee away, Matt, here. That's all. Take no notice of me. I'm fine. I can keep going. So if you prefer to keep going, we'll keep going. Now, the next thing actually is, I know what I went through was awfully heavy altogether. And it was like, oh, for God's sake, and I can imagine it, because even when I was researching, it was getting the better of me. But the next things now actually are nice enough. So, I mean, we can keep going if you want to. So, perfect, yeah. Yeah, we'll keep going. Okay, that's great. Right, now let me see, where am I? Future, yeah, here now there's a whole load of things come under here. It's core key competencies. Now it's actually page 7. 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 5 areas, and it's coming under this one whole thing here. But actually, it's fine. It's grand. So we'll cover that. It's actually what employers want from employees. So, I mean, when you're talking about analysing your interview afterwards, you can say, you know, that you went back and you looked at the PowerPoint. You can, all of you can say that that you looked at the PowerPoint heading in what employers want from employees, and that you read through, because that the next thing now, all this section, this is what it is. Now, when you're writing up this section here, it's halfway down. Facilitate the learner to develop an understanding of employability skills and what employers want from their. You can write that as an essay if you want to. It's entirely up to yourself. But it would say, like, the key words there, like key competency, transferable skills, interpersonal skills, digital literacy and team working. If you're putting all that into an essay, I just want you to highlight those keywords so that when I look down, I know you have them in. No, we'll all be reading through them, but as well as that, it helps the external examiner. And I always believe make life for the external examiner as easy as possible. Not for her sake, but for your sake. No.
Okay.
Right. So core key competency. What is a core competency section on a resume? A resume is your CV. It is known as your core qualifications. It's a list of your qualifications for a job, and you're going to be putting that in your CV. I have it written over on the other side here what it is. A core competency section includes your skills, what you're good at, certifications, that's your qualifications, or personality traits that make you desirable, like your personality traits. You've good sense of humor, which you need if you work in childcare. You like working with other people, which is important. It could be that you're a hard worker, you're an excellent timekeeper, all that. Now I have over on the other side, if you see here, personal statement at start of CV, that is your personal statement. So you put that on top of it. I am whatever you are. I'm a hardworking. I'm hardworking. I am interested in whatever your is, but don't go on about it. Don't go overboard. You know, just a couple of things, because if I see something that goes over, go. Yeah, right. Transferable skills. Now we're going to talk about now. That's all what the core and key competencies were. That first bit there. Transferable skills. Now. That now was, did we mention that earlier on? Transferable skills are your qualifications. So you have a qualification already. You work as a level 5. And if you have a level 5 already, you work as a level 5. But you have a level 6 qualification, but there was no position. You took the level 5 qualification because there wasn't level 6. You have a transferable skill because you can be transferred as a room leader when required. It might be only to fill in for the room leader that's already there and who's on a day off, or it might be that the room leader leaves, or it might be that the business is expanding. So you have a transferable skill with your qualifications. If you are an SNA, and you're working as a childcare worker with SNA qualification, you're able to transfer that skills to working with a child who has an additional needs. Now, mostly childcare workers with childcare qualifications have done an SNA module. Now, they don't not necessarily be working with specifically with a child with additional needs, but if the situation arose, they could, because they have that qualification. They can work as a name worker. So if a setting qualifies for AM and the child is granted a name worker, someone with an SNA can work as a name worker. But you cannot work as a name worker in a childcare setting only with an SNA qualification. You have to have the level 5 as well. So that's important. A driver, I'm always on about driving, but clean driving license, and that can help with your school transport. That's a transferable skill. IT qualifications, not necessarily IT qualifications, but you could be good with qualification. That is something you could put on your personal statement as well. If you are very, very good with IT and things like that, that can be very valuable to someone. To a business that could kind of say, well, okay, look, you go in there and spend the next hour working on whatever you want to do. Early childhood Ireland are on, and they want this survey done, or the revenue are on, they want this done. Now, will you go in there and do it? So having an IT qualification is transferable because it can assist with management work. If you are a qualified first aider and you come for an interview, or I think that is a bonus point if you're a first aid responder, because when you're interviewing, you get points, and beforehand, the interviewers will have arranged the series of questions beforehand, and they'll give points for every thing. And one of the things you'd have is if you're a qualified first aider and it's up to date and things, that could be worked 2 points to you on the interview scheme, while someone now that didn't have it done, will they get 0? So it can be an advantage. Now, if you're an artist, and I don't mean, you know, kind of your paintings are all over the town hall or anything like that on display, but if you're good at art and arts and crafts, that's transferable. Or indeed, if you are an artist, your arts and crafts activities are transferable, and comes in very handy in a school or a childcare setting. So they're your transferable skills. See, that's only one little section. Personal and interpersonal skills are we're doing next. And again, you'll refer to for your personal skills, because I don't know what your personal skills are. You refer to your skills and audit. You know, are you good with money? Or you could put good with you could put down finances, just finances, but you mightn't be good with money. Might only be fair. You know, there's a saying like some people have money burns a hole in their pocket, which means the minute there's a 5 in their pocket, they have to spend it. So, I mean, you mightn't be good, but that's okay to put that down. If you're putting in finances and you're not, you can put down as fair or good, but it would be something you could improve on. So, you refer to your skills.
Sorry, Joan, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Hi, Joan. Do you know the way there, for that section with the 5 points, when we're writing that up, are we talking about ourselves, or are we talking about like someone might have transferable skills if they do this and if they do that?
Well, you can,
or are we talking?
Well, you see, yes.
Or are we talking about specifically about ourselves?
No, it would be a kind of a general question, but you see, I think when you're doing something like that, the best thing is kind of think of yourself. You know, but without saying to yourself, like, I mean, you can talk about, you know, that with their personal skills audit, you could say, well, you know, when they're looking at their skills audit, they will look at something is suitable for them in the childcare setting. And you might think of a couple of personal things that, you know, things like patience. Patience is personal skill. Have you good patience? Also, your knowledge of, we'll say, Ashton Shielda. That now is personal as well. You know, how good is it?
Okay.
It would, if you're in the business a long time, it's excellent. If you're not, if it isn't, it might only be that sort of thing. So interpersonal skills then would be referred to communicating with work colleagues, management, parents, children, and other professionals. So that's what the interpersonal skills would be. And how interpersonal skill also would be, how would you conduct yourself at a meeting? Now, that's fine if it's just like 3 of us here at lunchtime or 4 of us here at lunchtime in the day, and we kind of have a quick meeting over a cup of coffee or something to do with something that a child and someone, I want to do a report on the child. That's fine, because we're all eating bread and we're drinking and we're walking around and things like that, because we only have a half an hour. But I mean, if you're having a proper formal meeting in big settings and things like that, it's how to conduct yourself at meetings. You know, kind of there are ways people can, and I think any of you that are on a parents association have ever been or at any sort of on a committee anywhere, know how to conduct yourself at a meeting. Like, you don't try not to use bad language, and even the way you sit and things like that is important. You must have good listening skills as well. That is interpersonal skills is important as well, that you listen and as well as that you allow people to have their say before you intervene. And being part of a team, that's very important. It's very important in anyone working in schools or childcare of any description, being part of a team. So that's now your interpersonal skills, and we're halfway down that already. That's all that is. I mean, you can take some of them, you can take all of them, you know, you can use all of that there, and you don't have to kind of go into ferocious detail about anything. It's just kind of list them and maybe a line underneath it. Now, digital literacy is, how efficient are you when it comes to technology? What way are you with the internet, email, search engines, WhatsApp, Viber, Skype and Zoom? Not just you, but we'll say people in general. How valuable are they to their employers? I mean, if they're very good with technology and things like that, then they are valuable. If they're able to organize Zoom meetings, we'll say with colleagues elsewhere, or you know, we'll say during when we were in lockdown now and things like that, having Zoom meetings was very important as well, or Skype or Viber or anything like that. That's just that now is digital literacy. these things, how efficient are people at them? The more efficient they are, the more, that's what employers will look for. Remember now, what you're looking for is employability skills and what employers want from employee. So the more of these you have, the more employable you are. And then teamwork is the last one. Team workers help to maintain a positive team atmosphere. They have a key role to play in diffusing conflict, keeping things running smoothly, and helping all team members to contribute effectively. They must be versatile and willing and do whatever is needed to support others. The qualities that make a good team player include commitment to ensuring the team succeeds with all tasks, duties and projects, commitment to making sure team members are informed on any development any development to ongoing work, take out the P there, to ongoing work issues are reliability, responsibility and excellent communication. Being a team player is extremely important, and the bigger the organization you work for, the more important you are as a team player. And you know, kind of, if we are deciding as a team, or as a group of people working together, that we are going to deal with something to do with a child, or if you as an SNA are deciding with the teacher, you know, no, this is, I think, would be the best way now for you to approach the parent and blah, blah. And the whole thing blows up and it goes all wrong. And the parent goes mad and says, well, there's no point you go around and then saying, well, I told you so. I didn't want you to do that at all. You went along with it and you agreed to it. So if something goes wrong, and you are part of a team, well, then you are as responsible as anyone else because you are part of a team. It's like if you're playing any match somewhere and the team loses, well, I mean, there's no point blaming the 14 other men or women or the 11 other men or women or whatever your team is and saying, well, I'm sorry, no, but I had a great game, so it is my fault you lost the match. You're part of a team. So team working is very, very important in any organization, just not in childcare alone. Any questions there now, ladies, about anything? So that's very straightforward. Okay. Right. Now we're coming into kind of a long thing now, but again, it's very easy to understand. It's something that's important as well. It's called, wait a while now, we're coming now to health, safety and welfare at work. I have a note